There is something strange about Counter-Strike Source. It came out in 2004, built on an engine that is considered ancient by today's standards, with graphics that obviously can't compete with modern games. And yet, when you came back to it years later, you found yourself looking at certain place and wondering, how does this game still have this atmosphere? To me, the beauty of Counter-Strike Source was never about how many details were in the screen, or how realistic its textures and lighting were. Its beauty was in the feeling, and that feeling starts with the place the game was built on in the first place. The Source Engine. There was something strangely beautiful about the Source Engine. It never seemed interested in making everything look beautiful. The surfaces were simple, the lighting could be harsh, and also some textures looked washed out. And the environments themselves could sometimes feel almost too empty. But those exact imperfections become part of its identity. There's something unique about the way Source Engine handled its environments. The walls, the floors, the concrete, the metal, the wood, everything somehow felt like it belongs to the same world, even when the textures themselves were already showing their age. And then was the lighting. Source lighting wasn't always realistic, but it had very unique character. The harsh shadows, the dark corners, the warm yellow light inside certain buildings, and the skyboxes that sometimes seems much larger than the world you're actually playing in. All of those little things created a feeling that is difficult to describe. It sometimes feels like you're not playing inside a map designed for a video game. You are standing inside a real place that was abandoned and frozen in time. And this is where things get interesting, because CS Source isn't a horror game. On paper, there is absolutely no reason for this game to be scary. You join a match, pick up a team, grab a weapon, and start shooting. But some of its maps feel like something else entirely. Think about the maps that contain areas that technically don't need to exist. A long hallway where nothing happens, an empty room, a locked door, an underground parking garage, a huge warehouse with nobody inside, or an area outside the playable boundaries that you can see from distance but can never actually reach. These details seem minor, but they create a very strange feeling, because the game doesn't always explain why these places are there. You simply see them, and that's exactly what makes them creepy. Sometimes, the most unsettling things aren't the things you see, but the things you expect to see, and you don't. Take a map like one of my favorite maps of all time, Port. Some areas feel like they are a part of a bigger world outside the match, and you get the same feeling in maps like Office, Nuke, and Inferno. There's always this sense that you are only seeing a small pieces of a much larger world, and beyond the walls you can cross, there is something else, even if there is nothing really there. The beauty of an old game. And I think that what makes CS Source so interesting even today. It isn't beautiful in the usual way. Put a screenshot next to a modern game and you can see the difference. The textures are weaker, the lighting is simpler, the models have less detail, and there are fewer small details overall. But beauty doesn't always came from having more polygons. Sometimes it came from simple things working well together. The color of the wall, the sound of the room, light coming through a window, an empty hallway, the sound of your footsteps when you are completely alone. These small things came together and suddenly the place has a feeling. Why do I remember it this way? Maybe some of this is because of memory. When you play a game during an important time in your life, you don't remember it exactly as it was. You remember how it made you feel. This is why when you play any old video game again, years later, it might look different to you. You start to notice things you didn't notice when you were younger. The map design, the lighting, the physics, the sounds, the empty places, and the strange way the game can make simple places feels like they're a part of much bigger world. Maybe that's why I don't think Source become ugly with age. It just become old, and those are two very different things. At the end, Counter-Strike Source isn't the best Counter-Strike for competitive gameplay. It isn't the most realistic, and it definitely doesn't have the best graphics. But it has something that numbers can't really measure. Atmosphere, a special feeling created by the Source engine, the maps, the movement, the sounds, and even the small problems in the game. When you put all of these things together, you get a game that feels like it came from a different time. A time when a new game engines still feel exciting and new. When maps weren't just places to fight, but places with their their own identity, when physics weren't just in the background, but were part of the game. And that's why when I play Counter-Strike Source today, I don't just see a game that it's more than 20 years old, I see a piece of gaming history. Sure, it has many flaws, but strangely, those flaws are part of what makes it beautiful. And maybe that's why, after all of those years, I can still load an old map, walk down an empty hallway, hear my own footsteps, and feel something that many modern games struggle to give me. The feeling that I've returned to a place I know, even though it isn't really there anymore.